With the change of weather comes a change of format, a change of machination, modus operandi. If you're like me, at times you'll encounter a scene where no lens is wide enough. What do you do in those circumstances? Do you lament, pack up and go home? Or do you improvise like an artist and get creative? Welcome back, friends. I'm Chris. This is Flightography. Today is all about the big picture. That's right, panorama. An old concept. Something that I am not unfamiliar with, but my experience in the past has been entirely from the air, looking down, creating photo mosaics. So for the past 4 weeks, I've been plotting the riverbanks, exploring the towns, experimenting and coming up with my own technique to shoot panoramas. Why would I want to shoot a panorama when I have a perfectly good camera? Why? Why do you ask? Well, this is a 23.5 megapixel camera. What if I wanted to shoot a 60, 100, or 200 megapixel photograph? How would I do that? Go to the bank, drain it, and spend $12,000 on a new camera? I don't think so. No, is embrace the concept of panorama, a technique that is almost as old as the invention of photography itself. The first one being illustrated and published about 6 months after the daguerreotype was unveiled in Paris, France in 1839. The benefits of a panoramic photograph are many. One, greatly enhanced resolution. You can get a medium format quality image out of a small APS-C or a micro four thirds sensor. That's saying something. You can create a more immersive photograph, rendering the sensation of almost being there. That's another very important aspect of panoramic photographs. Locations where your chosen subject just won't fit. You can't frame it up. You can't get the composition you want. The depth of field isn't working. Oh, stitch together a panorama. You can obtain a medium format style portrait with a medium style depth of field. Very intriguing, very desirable. So you want to change it up, but your pockets are empty. You can't afford a new camera or a new lens. You can't afford to travel to exotic, far-off destinations at the expense of airline flights these days. Use what you have and create a panorama. The technique is rather simple. The most important consideration, and you do not have to use a tripod and a nodal plate if you don't want to. If you can't afford that, it's fine. Today's software can handle a hand-stitched multi-frame composition, provided you exercise some caution, keep the camera level, use a longer lens. Over 35 millimeters is preferred. You can go as long as 350. I've shot some at 350. I'm tending to prefer 70 to 100 millimeters. The most important aspect when you're shooting it, either handheld or on a tripod, is your nodal point, the point where your aperture sits inside your lens. In this lens, the Sony 350G, it's right here. So that means I rotate around that point. I do not rotate around this point. Very important. If you follow that simple rule, you won't have many problems stitching, provided you stay at least 15, 20 feet away from elements in your foreground. Contrary to what many people would say, you can get away with a panorama inside a woodland composition. In fact, those are some of my favorites. Have a look at these. When composing, another important consideration is your overlap. Keep it about 1/3. What I've discovered after this past 4 weeks of shooting about 400 panoramas, the important aspect is fewer is actually better. The more images you give the software, the more likely it is to get things a little askew, especially right angles. This is what I find. So 1/3 overlap, no more, and try to go only as far either side as you really need to, and avoid anything greater than like a 180 sweep. then things get really fisheye and unattractive, in my opinion. And do mark the beginning. Oops, I've got my time exposure on. There we go. I just mark it with a finger. Take note of my horizon. And then I advance 2/3 at a time. And that's all there is to it. If that image turned out any good, here it is, 100 millimeters. This particular site is a very good example because I've been trying to photograph it for years. This is a part of the old Domtar pulp mill complex here in Cornwall. This is all land being actively rehabilitated, full to the brim with toxic furans and methyl mercury and all kinds of nasty things. So they don't allow anybody in there. But the canal system here, so the ships used to load and unload here. This is too big, even for my 16 millimeter. The structure itself ends up this big in the frame, and it's just not a pleasant photograph. Whereas a panorama turns this into something much more majestic, more befitting the nature of it. And it's one of the few places in town where the kids can get active with their graffiti. An art form I do actually, I enjoy. What do you think of Old Feller? That's what I call it. I've been watching him in this black ash swamp for quite some time. That's a hard maple, not a black ash, though. I thought this scene would make a very striking panorama. Back to the point. Panoramas. Absolutely essential that you shoot in manual. You can't have a wandering ISO. You can't have a wandering aperture. You can't have a wandering focus. So everything's manual. Set yourself up. What that means, of course, is you're going to have to choose your time and opportunity carefully because you can't have varying light. What I've been struggling with today here is heavily overcast, fast-moving clouds, windy outside the canopy here, and drastically changing lighting conditions. So across the breadth of my panorama, these ones I've shot so far are not going to look good, but that's okay because ideally I want to come back here when we have the foliage out, because that'll give me a nice green color cast that I can use for my editing and contrast. All of this gray and the reflections are interesting for maybe a fine art composition, but in any regard, it's a tester. So, more immersive, better field of view, which you can manipulate, giving yourself a portrait look as you would acquire on a medium format camera. If you've ever used a medium format camera, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, you should take a little look because it's highly desirable, marketable in certain realms like architecture, real estate, people, of course, and people's objects of adoration, boats, cars, that sort of thing. Oh, we've got someone coming through the frame here, so I'll have to get my camera out of the way. I'll move that. How you doing? You never know if there's a hole in there. If you spent any time around cameras, camera people, or camera literature, you'll probably have come across the perspective that the human eye sees in about the 35 to 50 millimeter range. This is not true. This is a misrepresentation that stems from people using the mean diameter of the human retina, which is 40 millimeters. Your actual vision is a grand illusion. Magicians know this to be true. Your fovea is the only accurate, color-rich, and very sharp area of your vision. It's inside your macula. Your macula is about 5.5 millimeters across. Your fovea is about 1.5 millimeters. That's about 2% of your field of view. The average human, without any sight issues, has about 180 degrees. So 2 degrees is sharp and color saturated. Everything else is not only a blur and obscure and not saturated, it's a figment of your imagination. Quite complex, logical, factorial imagination based on your life experience. Your brain is filling in all the gaps and it's predicting the future. That's why a 40 millimeter, a 50 millimeter photograph, this is not an accurate reproduction of human vision. An accurate reproduction of human vision could quite accurately be a panorama. It's a manufactured composition, a manufactured visage, vista, based on previous and future and current events. It's pretty remarkable. Panoramas are the way to go. Almost back. One more pano after these people leave. Let's go take a look. See if we can find any wood ducks. Okay, so this is the setup. 100 millimeters. I've got my variable ND on there instead of my 10 stop. And I've got it exposing to the right. I'm at 1.6 seconds, f16. And that looks like I'll get some good detail. So, frame up. Again, I'm not going much more than probably 160 degrees. So, finger for the first one. This is only for editing when you're looking at them. And I'm going to put my 2-second delay on, hold my camera strap for the wind, and pray that I've got everything locked down. I should tilt this up a little bit to get more sky and not so much water. Let's try that. That's better. All right. The white pines in the background don't look like they're moving too much, so I should get some good detail there. I can tell from the peaking in my viewfinder that they're not moving. When things are moving really quickly in the viewfinder with peaking, it looks like static. There's a goose Looking for something. No, there is one more bird box over there, but I don't think I'm going to do that far a sweep. And I can see my horizon has gone off a little bit, so I'm just going to gently switch that. There we go. Take another one there, and just remember, my second last one is going to have to be replaced with the second exposure. There we go. Now, I am getting cold, and guess what time it is? It's coffee time.